Americans, it is officially Liquidation Day. That's right, not Liberation Day, but Liquidation Day. We have just seen the largest scale of tariffs since World War II. The Nikkei is crashing 2.2%. That's actually a lot for them. You've got Bitcoin rotating straight down from its enthusiasm, now sitting at about 85, which is kind of roughly where it started, but it did run almost up to 89K there under some enthusiasm because Trump kind of took a while to get to the punchline. And I want to save you the effort because boy, oh boy, the punchline is this good old chart right here. This chart is the punchline. The idea is that Mr. Lutnick has taken the last 30 days and he's actually sat down to put together his list of the Dirty 60. They have a list of about 60 different countries that they want to specifically tariff. Every single country in the world, you know, we got like, what, 192 of them or whatever, 10% tariff, baseline. We start at 10%, no negotiations. Okay, well, this is a game changer, first of all, because I want you to remember where we started. When you actually weigh the tariffs by percent of goods that are traded on those tariffs, and you weigh those tariff rates, I want you to understand what we're starting with. This is what we're starting with, and this is from the World Bank. Hong Kong, no tariffs. Singapore, no tariffs. A lot of people call it Singapore Inc. Germany, 1.3%. France, 1.3%. Italy, 1.3%. Canada, 1.4%. United States, 1.5%. Okay? Donald Trump's proposals now to put a 10% floor on everyone is greater than every single other actual trade dollar-weighted tariff that exists. Trump's proposal goes as high as over 30% for some countries, and that's because Lutnick has sat down and decided, you know what we're going to do is we're going to bundle together every possible thing that we could say bad about another country, such as, oh, well, other countries manipulate their currencies, or they use child labor, or anything basically that makes them different. Emission standards, whatever. Anything that makes them different, we will consider that a tax on American products, which I get the argument. You know, if other countries are legally using children and we're not, that's bullcrap. Get it. But understand what you're toying with here for a moment. You are toying with a U.S. economy which relies about 13% on its GDP from trade. In other words, 13% of our GDP comes directly from imports. Okay, when you compare back to the Great Depression, we only relied on imports for about 3.9% of our damn trade. So now all of a sudden, we are imposing...
See, on that, I think the next step is that country...
All of a sudden, we are imposing some of the greatest tariffs that we have ever seen, suggesting even that Smoot-Hawley didn't go far enough. We are imposing some of the greatest regime-changing tariffs ever. This is way worse than people expected, mind you. We're imposing some of the greatest regime-changing tariffs ever at a time when we're actually more reliant on imports than we had been in history. Now, Donald Trump says, but other countries aren't being fair to us. They allow us to import, 1 quart of milk. This was his line. Oh, they let us import 1 quart of milk at a very, very low tariff rate, and then they charge us 200% on other milk. Okay, this is a reference to Canada, and it's total fugazi. And this is the problem. Like, you have to sit here for 5 hours and break down all the stuff he just said and tell you what's true and what's false. And look, I'll tell you when he's right. When he says, for example, we're doing a great job at the border, hats off. He's kicking ass at the border. Illegal migrants caught crossing the U.S.-Mexico border are now at the lowest level ever recorded per Reuters, with data going back to when they started the series in 2000. Donald Trump is kicking butt over there. But this idea that, Canadians are paying 200% on American milk is bullcrap. How do we know that? Well, because we can look at the data on the milk that we've sent, the $1.1 billion of dairy that we have sent to Canada, which is up 55% from COVID levels 2020, by the way. Zero was subject to a triple-digit tariff. They have some of these outlying quotas so that we just don't dump an infinite amount of milk in their economy and then crush their own dairy farmers, okay? They're cold half the year. They need the help. Give them a break. Now, look, I'm a free trade buff. I think we should have free trade, and I will make a bet that I guarantee we will return to free trade by the end of the decade. I suspect within the first 6 months of 2029, assuming Donald Trump actually leaves office in January 2029, because the next administration will push us back to free trade. Donald Trump, I hope he will, but I don't know if he will. But this idea of kind tariffs, this is the greatest fugazi I've ever heard in my life. These are not kind tariffs. These are the worst tariffs that have ever existed. I don't actually think they're going to stick. I think this is designed to create absolute panic, because that's exactly what this is doing. Now, these tariffs don't actually go into effect immediately. Donald Trump knows this. This is part of Donald Trump's art of the deal, chaos theory, whatever the hell you want to call it. You can't predict what he does, and that's the point. Nobody went into today expecting let me show you the chart, and kind tariffs to be 30-something% tariffs on China. Nobody expected that to happen. Now, we have to understand when some of these tariffs are actually going to go into effect. So let's take a look at this. So in terms of when these tariffs will go into effect, baseline tariff of 10% will go into effect April 5 at 12:01 a.m. So April 5, 12:01 a.m. That's when these tariffs go into effect. That would be, let's see, Thursday, Friday. That's Saturday, Sunday morning-ish, somewhere around there. Reciprocal tariffs won't go into effect until April 9th at 12:01 a.m. So you have about a week to panic and figure out all the details of this. Tariffs on pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and critical minerals were not mentioned yet. That's because they're still coming. All of this authority is being imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. That's going to be the basis for lawsuits. Donald Trump calls these kind reciprocal tariffs. I call them the R word. I'm sorry. I really tried my best to be in the middle. These are stupid. These are economy-crushing tariffs, and they are not kind. They are very, very aggressive. Now, again, if he's able to use this as a negotiation over the next week, fantastic. You'll notice that Mexico is actually not on this list, which is very interesting. No Mexico on here, no Canada on here. USMC compliant components are being excluded from this. And then Donald Trump mentioned that certain corporations and companies will have exclusions as well. He specifically by name mentioned companies, not including Tesla, but he mentioned companies like Facebook for having promised $500 billion of investments into America over the next few years. Now, that's very interesting because we have not heard that announcement from Meta. We've heard $65 billion from Meta. We have not heard $500 billion. But then again, the game all of these companies are playing is they're simply taking their cash flow or their R&D budgets that they would be spending anyway. They're rebranding it as an investment into America, which a lot of they would be investing anyway. And then they're going to Trump and saying, look, over the next 10 years, we're going to do X, Y, Z. Donald Trump talks about how wonderful it is that Taiwan Semiconductor is building a factory in Arizona, but totally neglects to mention that the CHIPS Act helped bring them here with subsidized manufacturing grants to actually get a chip plant to function in America, because what's the reality is anybody who actually starts a factory in America is going to get absolutely creamed when we go back to free trade. And that's why a lot of these companies that are promising these massive $100 billion investments or whatever, they're probably not actually going to make those investments anytime soon, because they're just going to wait and see how quickly we return to free trade, and then they can end up going to announce these factories in Mexico or wherever they want. I personally see in the future, not too long future, I think Optimus robots will probably be manufactured in Mexico, because you raise the standard of living in America by providing Optimus robots, and you raise the standard of living by manufacturing robots in Mexico, where you can raise the minimum wage from, $3 or whatever they earn over there to maybe $3.50 to $4 an hour, which is a boon to their economy, and it's a boon to our economy because we get deflationary robots helping us do what we want to do. That's the way a global economy works. Now, all of a sudden, that is considered, though, globalist and fake news and evil. Well, that's fugazi, okay? This is obviously an economic point that I very much disagree with Donald Trump on, and I think he's lighting a fire with quite frankly, a level of a shock to the economy that shouldn't be lit right now. Like, if we just went easy right now and we got our free trade within the next month, maybe we could still pull off a soft landing and we don't go into recession. In which case, please, I want to go back to buy the dip, Kevin, and being bullish. But anyway, Apple got mentions here, OpenAI got mentions here, NVIDIA got mentions here, TSMC, Meta, Honda, Hyundai got mentions, even Thailand. That was his phrase. Okay, I'm making fun of it. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. No mention of Tesla. Trump tariffs will cover cars, light trucks, engines. Lithium-ion batteries will be included. Tires, shocks, spark plugs, wires will be included. Laptops and desktop tariffs are coming. Donald Trump mentions that, again, these are kind tariffs because Biden hemorrhaged manufacturing jobs. Okay, this is not entirely true. What Donald Trump is doing is he's referencing COVID and the manufacturing jobs that were lost during COVID. But he does accurately say that there's a single shipyard in China that produces more ships than anyone else. This is true. That shipyard, by the way, is called the China State Shipbuilding Corporation. China is doing the opposite of us, mind you, right now. They are stimulating like crazy, and I'll tell you in just a moment about China. But first, quick mention to those of you watching this on replay. If you haven't heard yet, House Hack is giving you an opportunity to diversify away from the insanity of the stock market. You get into basically a subscriber benefit of a deal where if you watch my channel, I want to be known as the person in 10 years back where you look back and go, I'm so grateful I invested with Kevin because it wasn't as big as it is, is now as it was then. Well, you get what I'm trying to say. In other words, it exploded is my goal. I want you to be able to look at these shares and go, wow, they're worth 10, 20x in the future, because that's what I want to build with HouseHack when we IPO this in the future. Hopefully 28 to 2030, we'll see. But check it out. Go to househack.com. You don't have to be accredited to invest. We build, fix up, and manage the properties. We've got some really cool things coming as well in the way of announcements and really big upside potentials for the companies. You get 100% of the upside for everything HouseHack does, and you get 5% paid to you as a distribution from our rents per year, which is awesome. You get that distribution monthly, which is kind of cool. You could be accredited or non-accredited, and you could check out all of the properties that we own, what we do over at the househack.com website, see our properties, view our financials, look at before and afters. You can see everything you want over at househack.com. We completely remade the website, so go check it out. That said, we got to talk about China. So the thing about China is less exposed to these tariffs than they ever have been before. And that's actually really important because if you look at Donald Trump's sheet, China is at the top of the sheet. China is estimated to charge the U.S. 67%, which is, wild relative to what China actually charges us based on the actual tariff rates that they have. China's actual tariffs are probably closer to about 2.2%. You could see that on screen here, 2.2%. And these are based on 2022 numbers, right? So we're about 1.5. China's at about 2.2. So this idea that China is sitting at 67% and we're going to be nice to them and only charge them, half of that is really a concocted number. But it's fine because it's probably Donald Trump's method of negotiating. That said, CNBC argues, no, we don't want to negotiate with these countries. They need to pay up. So Donald Trump is calling these the discounted. Okay, you get a coupon code. And the European Union being slapped with 20%, they've already vowed retaliation. We know China is going to retaliate, and Mexico, Canada are going to try to be friendly to us, so we'll see what happens with them. Both of them want a free trade deal and a continuation of the USMCA, so we'll see what happens here. Canada and Mexico will remain subject to the 25% fentanyl tariffs, so you're not getting any kind of removal of that. And the United Kingdom has already just responded, saying that we have a range of tools at our disposal and we will not hesitate to act. Now, UK, worth noting, they're at the bottom of this list, somewhere in here at 10%. Singapore, there's Singapore. Singapore is at 10%. That's interesting because Singapore doesn't actually have tariffs against us. Their rate against us is 0, but they're getting the flat 10%. Interesting. But anyway, United Kingdom's on here at 10% as well. They don't get any discount, apparently, because they hit the baseline of 10%. Donald Trump's administration is also beginning the process of reclassifying some federal agency employees to remove job protections. Trump tariffs do not impose an additional 10% on Canada and Mexico, but we're retaining the 25% related tariffs for fentanyl and the USMCA exemption, so clarifying that a little bit. And let's see here. European Commission President will deliver statement at 5 a.m. Brussels time, 1300 or 0300 GMT. I gotta put my pilot watch on to figure out what GMT time it is. It's 21:14 UTC. Okay. Anyway, so this is a lot, folks. This is a surprise. Bloomberg Intelligence right now is discussing, quote, I would be surprised if economists don't start ratcheting up U.S. recession probability calculations pretty quickly on this. The U.S. does not have enough manufacturing capacity, goodness gracious, to replace all its goods imports, which means a very significant price shock is looming. The National Restaurant Association said that new reciprocal tariffs will raise prices for consumers who are very sensitive to costs. Restaurants raised prices about 30%, while food costs have gone up 40% already. The fertilizer industry did not get a shout out here. We've got the Association of Equipment Manufacturing saying equipment manufacturers appreciate Trump's administration's commitment to reviving American manufacturing. While we agree a key to strong U.S. economy is building more products in America, we need a certain trade environment to make investments in domestic manufacturing. We are concerned that reciprocal tariffs on our trading partners will hurt our industry and our customers. Tariffs are just one tool at the administration's disposal. So in other words, they sound pissed. High yield credit is now worsening. This is likely going to lead to more credit softening. That's a black swan risk, mind you, more of a gray swan risk since we're kind of somewhat aware of it. Retail Federation says these tariffs are going to equal more anxiety. No duh. Reports indicate Canada and Mexico will not be subject to reciprocal tariffs announced on Liberation Day, that USMCA exemptions will remain in place. We already talked about that, but they still have the 25% tariffs previously mentioned. That's why they're not on the chart here. Fine. Let's see here. Okay, statements from critics of Trump and tariffs are starting to come in. Former policy advisor, blah, blah, blah. Americans have a simple request of Donald Trump lower prices. However, this is likely to increase prices. Okay, whatever. Now we're just getting into some political commentary. I'll skip that. Continuation of USMCA compliant goods from Canada and Mexico being exempt from tariffs is a major relief for oil traders. Almost all of the roughly 4 million barrels of crude that flow from Canada to the U.S. is compliant, and therefore should keep shipments coming. This is also good news from consumers worried about higher pump prices. Yeah, good. Okay, so I mean, like, there's some good in this, but boy, in terms of some of these other companies, this is a hosing. Mind you, I was just getting ready to say why Canada or China is a little bit more resilient to some of this craziness. They are partnering with all of our other partners. Canada is talking to Japan and South Korea, which they haven't done for 5 years, on free trade. China is offering everybody free trade who trades freely with China. This is the opposite of what the United States is doing. The United States has punishingly high interest rates and high costs right now, whereas China is literally stimulating their economy. They are encouraging consumers to spend. They are encouraging businesses to invest. They are doing the opposite of America right now. Okay, Xi Jinping, if you're out there, pardon me for all I have said in the past. I think what you are doing right now is actually pretty smart. That said, I still don't know if I could ever go to China because I think y'all are just going to kill me. But anyway, sorry I blamed you for COVID. It was your fault, though. So that said, I shouldn't say that. Anyway, so that said, let's see here. I mean, I don't know if this gives us the certainty we were hoping for, because this is a lot worse than we thought. You know, going into this, we thought we were going to get like tranches, like 10, 15, 20%. Like, these tariffs are way higher than we expected. This is probably why the Nikkei is down. Let me see what it is right now. 225, Nikkei 225. Okay, well, the Nikkei futures, right. Okay, so the actual Nikkei right now isn't open, of course, not yet. Futures are down about 2.2%. And then we've got, obviously, the post-market here is reacting to some of this. Oh, wow. Tesla now down almost 6%. A lot of the, retail really buys the dip on Tesla during the day. We saw that happen today. We talked about that in the Alpha report. But I will say, the NASDAQ 100 being down 3.4%, this is crazy. This is a huge movement in after hours. We were just talking about in the course member live stream this morning how rare it is for the NASDAQ to be down or up 3% on a day. If you're not part of the course member live streams yet, you're missing out on the live streams. Join us. We have a subscription that's going up in price on April 15th, but you could lock in the price forever at today's low price if you go to meetkevin.com and check it out now. That said, we've got Bitcoin now at 84.3, much lower than where we were before the event, which was about 86.3. A lot of stocks selling down here. You've got AMD down 4%, Tesla's down 6%. Bonds are rallying on this. So very interesting. Okay, so then what else here? Let's see here. Okay, let me see what other data we had. Donald Trump does mention the United States Trade Representative report on trade barriers. However, it's worth noting that in the report, there's actually no mention of VAT tariffs being a trade barrier. Donald Trump says industry will be reborn today, and he wants to make America wealthy again. He says we won't be ripped off any longer, that this is a historic announcement, and we're going to raise trillions to pay down our debt. Yeah, not if we go into a recession and our debt actually explodes because we have to bail ourselves out of a recession. Honestly, it was like this close to getting excited again this morning that we could get through these negative catalysts and finally start looking for deals again in the stock market. Just freaking ruined it. Pissed. Anyway. We talked about the milk from Canada. Oh yeah, this argument. Donald Trump talks about this argument that prior to 1913, tariffs funded most of our government. Listen, yes, it's true. Tariffs made up a substantial portion of our federal government prior to 1913 because our federal government was tiny. We didn't have an income tax until 1913 because we didn't have schools funded by the government or hospitals funded by the government. We didn't have roads or highways funded by the government. We didn't have social freaking security. We didn't have a World War I to go through. We didn't have a World War II to go through. We didn't have Medicare. We didn't have Medicaid. We didn't have defense spending. Social Security didn't begin until 1935. No freaking crap. Our federal government was way smaller then than it is now. So sorry, but the comparison is apples to oranges. This is like straight out of Vivek Ramaswamy's playbook, where he reads something sizzly and then wants you to melt your brain in how eloquently he speaks to you without assuming that you're going to look up the actual facts. It's a scam, just like his pharmaceutical company that his mom rewrote a pharmaceutical paper on, suggesting a dead drug wasn't actually dead, raised billions of dollars from unsuspecting investors from it, scamming them by basically bankrupting the company, becoming a billionaire himself, and then going to start something else. That is slimy to me, just like this suggestion that we should just go back to what we had before. Okay, you want to go back to the mid-1800s? No more Social Security, no more Medicaid, no more Medicare, no more defense spending, no more, colleges funded by the government, no more highways funded by the government, and cut the Department of Defense 8% a year? Forget about it. Why don't you cut it divide the defense budget by 200, and then you'll be back to what you had back then? It's crazy. Back then, World War I cost us 52% of our gross national product. 52% is how much of our government production, or our total national production, was spent on a war economy in World War I. Today, we spend like 3%. It's crazy. Well, it's actually probably, it might even be less than that. That's probably about right. 850 bill divided by $26 trillion economy. Yeah, 3.3% of our gross domestic product is spent on Department of Defense spending. And that includes all the handouts to Ukraine, which, don't even get me started on that. We know. We know, and I pulled this up the other day, but I think it's so interesting. We know that this war is basically just the CIA directing bombs at Russia to keep Russia weak, okay? It's really, really fascinating. You should read some of the stories they have on this stuff. It's crazy. But anyway, when you compare the actual facts and data, you start going, holy smokes. This is crazy to compare to those times. And this is why I'm saying the fact that at a time when we are 3 times as reliant on global imports for our GDP, to impose tariffs that are based on loony bin numbers is idiotic. These numbers are straight from the loony bin. They're not real. It's basically like Macy's telling you you're going to buy a Hugo Boss from Macy's for $7,000. But today only, you could get 50% off. If you open a card, you get another 25% off. If you use this triple double up coupon, you get another 25% off. Oh my gosh, you got a suit for $200 at Macy's that MSRP's for $7,000? All hail Macy's. It's a scam. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm disappointed in this. I wanted to turn bullish, damn it. I'm tired of being a little bear. Australia's PM says Australia will not impose reciprocal tariffs. Tariffs, not the act of a friend. Decision push up costs for American household. U.S. tariffs totally unwarranted. We will continue to make the strongest case for these unjustified tariffs to be removed from our exports. Okay, whatever, Australia. And then, yesterday people were like, oh, well, Israel is going to remove all of their tariffs on the U.S. Why doesn't every other country? You know what I don't understand is how can people like Bill Schmackman have so much damn money and say and purposefully mislead people so damn badly? That's what pisses me off. I don't understand. How do they make so much money lying by omission? Can somebody please help me understand that? Because it drives me nuts. It feels wrong. Okay? Look at this. Here, I'll show it to you. Bill Ackman. Israel sets the example of how all of our allies should preemptively respond to Donald Trump's desire to level the playing field for America quote, breaking, Israel has removed all tariffs on American products. No flying cooties. For 40 years, 98% of our trade with Israel has been free. Only 2% of trade with Israel has been subject to tax, to tariff, and it's on stupid stuff like apples that makes Israel like $11 million a year. And I'm talking about Apple computers. I'm talking about actual apples, like Granny Smith's, okay? Wait a second, though. That brings in about $11 million of revenue for Israel. We just gave them $3.2 billion in military aid in 2023. $11 million tax revenue, $3.2 billion in military aid. You got it, Trump. Free trade. No problem, Trump. You win. No $11 million on tariffs for you, Trump. We love you, Trump. You're a hero. You're doing what's great for everyone. America first. That's the Israeli POV. Meanwhile, they're laughing at the bank looking at the $3.2 million in munitions they just got from America. This is stupid. This is so stupid. Oh, I can't handle this anymore. I gotta go. I'm gonna have to start drinking alcohol on stream again or something. This is like, I think I need Tesla tequila or something. I can't handle this. This is insane. This is not logical. It needs to end. Please make this movie end. It's a bad movie. I don't like it. I'm gonna go now. Goodbye. Good luck.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.